everyone, welcome back to Quilt Mania's 2014 Mystery Block of the Month Part 2. But first off, we have to congratulate Quilt Mania as the March-April edition, which the pattern for Part 2 will be in, is their 100th edition. So congrats Quilt Mania from me and Fletch and Flick. Now on with some work. Oh, and if you are visiting the Yarra Valley, you need to try Innocent Bystander Moscato. It is delicious. Now, part 2, we are doing borders around our completed part 1. So we've got triangles with little squares in the middle with circles appliqued. We are going to make we're going to make 4 strips that look like this, but to 2 of them we're going to add the little hexagon flowers to each end. Now we are adding some new fabrics to our collection this time. We have got for the quarter square triangles, we have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 fabrics. These 2 are prairie wovens. The next 3 are from Judy's 25th anniversary range, and the last 2 are from Paula Barnes' Summit Rose. For the circles here and for the background of the hexagon flower and the little centre of the hexagon flower, we are also adding new fabrics. These 2 red ones are from sorry Fletch, we're boring you. These 2 red ones are from part 1, which appeared here and somewhere. No, I'm telling fibs, just that one's from part 1. So we've got all these new ones here. The last 2, this one is the background of the hexagon flower, and I have just taken one of these little motifs from here for the centre of that flower. Now, all the measurements are going to be in the March-April edition of Quilt Mania, but for the square, these triangles here, we actually start with a square, which we then cut into 4, like so, giving us the straight grain on this outside edge. For our little corner triangles here, they start their life as a square, which is then cut in half just once diagonally, and that gives us our straight grain on this edge and that edge there. Now we're going to piece that together after we've appliqued the circles, which I'll go through that technique in a minute. We are going to, these are set together in a diagonal row situation. So this triangle is sewn to this square here, that one is sewn across there just by flipping over, lining up your right angle edges and sewing down here and pressing, and then the same with that side, giving us this diagonal section here. For the corners down here, that's a little different, and that will be a appliqued square with the triangle added here, and then one of these added down there, so that becomes a unit like so. Now for the appliqued circles, I do like to work on a sandpaper board if I can. You need to have a template, a circular template. You can either make your own from the pattern, or these ones that I get at my local quilt shop, which they're plastic, but you can actually iron them without them melting, which is wonderful. Now I just take that, I've had pre-done this, but I'll show you what I did to get to that point. I just lay my template on my fabric, draw around it, and then add a seam allowance when I cut. So if you look at this, you can sort of see here's the finished size in here, here's my seam allowance. Now in between that drawn line and my cut edge, I have actually run a little gathering stitch all the way around. I've actually used a double thread and just a tiny little neat gathering stitch all the way around. So this is a little like making a covered button. I then just take my template, place that inside there, and then just pull up. Oh, actually my thread too, I have finished it on the right side of the fabric, so the thread's coming out this side as opposed to the inside side, and I just pull that around like so. That pulls up, And there's my circle. I then would take it to the iron. This one I've already pressed, so it's got a nice crisp line in it. And then all I have to do is just ease out my template. Just refigure that. Maybe just a little tiny pull from... And there is my circle ready to applique. Now, rather than actually applique, these circles are actually quite small, so actually rather than applique individual little squares, I've actually drawn a square grid onto my background fabric, which we're using the leftovers from week 1. That is, if you're doing a program with one of the shops with Quilt Mania, you obviously receive a package each month. You're receiving, last month you received the background fabric and the border fabric and fat 8s for all the other bits. Now you need to use those fat 8s carefully, save the leftovers because they'll be carried through the whole quilt. Now to the background I've actually drawn on the cut size of the of this square, so this square here includes the seam allowance. Then I've appliqued each of the circles to a whole piece of fabric, like a larger piece of fabric, rather than just a little individual piece, little individual square. It keeps the shape better and it's easier for you to handle. And then I just have to cut them apart as I need them. Very carefully on your drawn line, like so. And then your squares are ready to add to your triangles in your little system like this one here. Now, once all of those are done, you need to think about the little hexagon flowers on the end here. Now, I've used again 1/2" papers, 1/2" hexagon papers, which were also used in part 1 for here. If you can't buy them, you can just make up your own from the pattern. Now, it's not a full size, it's not a full hexagon rosette, it is just literally just a little centre square, which is a 1/2" square, and the 4 hexagons to each side. You possibly will have to make the paper template for the 1/2" square. I don't know that they're available to purchase. So I've actually tacked my hexagon shape onto my papers, and then to get it to this stage, all I have to do is just stitch one side of a hexagon to one side of the square. And there's my little flower. Now also too, I have appliqued these in a similar fashion to the circles, in that it was actually 4 squares initially, but I've cut 2 out to put on here. I actually appliqued them to a larger piece of fabric rather than small individual squares. So I have actually marked the centre, so all I have to do is a pin in the centre and match up with the centre here. And then applique that in position. Now it doesn't look centred there, but I have got more fabric on this side. Oops, actually it's not quite centred. That looks better. Oops, sorry Fletcher, you got your hat off. There you go, lady. Party's over. Work time. Then I just applique that to the background square, cut out my square, and then these are added to each end of 2 of your 4 strips. Now, before we actually attach these to here, I do like to trim the little corners that are sticking out. So just cut all those back level with your straight lines. Now, one of these goes to the bottom and the top, and then when the top one's added, we add on each side, like so. Okay, now here we are with the central block with the border all around. So this is what your part 2 is going to look like. Now if I can just show you one little thing too about removing the papers from the corner hexagons, you'll see that I have just split the back a little, like I've got a cross shape cut in the background fabric only, and that allows me to get my finger in and pull out the papers. And just a little apology for a seniors moment I had before. There are 2 fabrics repeated from the first part. That's this one here, which is this one, and that one here. So there we go. Now just have fun adding your border to part 1, and then we'll be back again for part 3 in the May-June issue of the best quilting magazine in the whole world, Quilt Mania.